Today, we have some very real data about how teachers are using AI, how students want to use AI, and a rapid wind-up of the news. You're listening to Adjunct Intelligence, the podcast that looks at AI and where it has an impact on education. My name is Dale, AI enthusiast, and I am joined by Nick McIntosh, the learning futurist. Nick, are you well?
Super good, mate. Looking a bit spruced for my haircut and everything else. Like I do want to call that out and sort of just make a little nod to you. Hey, get yourself down, new barber.
Fresh. Correct. So I will have to book in soon. But first, let's get into the news. So we all know that students are using AI. We've hammered home that analogy of students driving blind. But there's fascinating research from Anthropic that Nick highlighted recently in his newsletter that you can check out on LinkedIn, and it completely flips this narrative. Teachers, they're not just watching from the sidelines, they are embracing AI themselves, and a lot.
Yeah, they're saving as much as 6 hours a week. And that's not just efficiency gains. I mean, this is educators gaining back entire days, month. The applications are just remarkable. So you got teachers creating course materials, crafting grant proposals, personalizing learning content, building interactives, including things like physics simulations and chemistry experiments from scratch.
So the researchers behind this piece are categorizing this into augmentation versus automation. So teachers are either collaborating with AI, so they're co-creating these lesson plans, they're refining student feedback, or they're delegating entire pieces of work. Things like handle my gradebook or evaluate these essays. Problematic. It's kind of like having a teaching assistant that works around the clock. Now, a substantial amount of educators are using Claude to grade student work. Nick, this kind of raises a bit of a question around transparency. Should students know when AI is evaluating their assessments?
I would say yes, definitely, at least for now. There's a fallibility to them at this point in time. I think that may change in time as these machines get better, sort of witness what we might call traditional AI or non-generative AI, where they are running machine knowledge or machine recognition on scans, for example, in medicine. I think there's an ethical piece in there as well. What about you?
Debate is intensifying here, and yes, I agree. Definitely one that transparency is probably preferred here. But what happens when an AI assigns a B+ and the teacher would give it like an A-? Is it acceptable to let the AI handle the routine rubric so teachers can focus on meaningful feedback? So is it the way that you handle references here? Is that appropriate? Is that something that an AI can kind of do? Versus something more around judging the quality of the essay. So these scenarios are playing out in real classrooms today. What's encouraging is that many educators are not ignoring this shift. They're adapting thoughtfully. The ones that are thinking about this are moving beyond traditional research that AI can easily complete. There's a perfect example where one student becoming absolutely furious because they couldn't use Claude or ChatGPT to finish their assignment. The frustration was exactly what the teacher wanted, proof that they designed something that required genuine human thinking. They talked about it as being like a big flattery for them. This is a good thing. For me, this isn't a distant possibility. The transformation is happening right now, and educators are driving it. Picture this. It's 2 a.m, you're stuck on an assignment, and your lecturer isn't answering any emails, so who you gonna call? So there's a new study that might have the answer. It's called Comparing Generative AI and Teacher Feedback, Student Perceptions of Usefulness and Trustworthiness. All these research pieces have very long titles. It's by Henderson and colleagues. The researchers surveyed almost 7,000 students across 4 major Australian universities, and nearly half of them, 49%, said they're turning to generative AI tools for feedback on their work. And this won't surprise many. But the bit that I really loved, students think that both AI and teachers are pretty much equally helpful. But when it comes to trust, the story shifts a little bit here. Over 90% trusted teacher feedback, while only 60% said the same about AI. That's a pretty big gap. Students describe Gen AI feedback as less risk socially, so they're asking questions they may not be comfortable asking their teachers, and often more positive in tone, though sometimes too positive or disingenuous, as some people put it. On the other hand, teacher feedback could feel negative or even dismissive, but students recognize it as expert, contextualized, and personal. Teachers know the course, the assignment, and the student, and that makes their feedback much more trustworthy. Among the students who didn't use AI for feedback, nearly a third said it was because of trust or quality, but simply because they just didn't know how to drive the AI effectively. That points to a growing digital divide on campus, and we've spoken about this many times. Students are very much driving blind with these AI tools. What does it all mean? The future of feedback in higher education isn't about choosing between AI or humans, it's about how they work together. One more plus one for my thoughtful centaur approach. So Gen AI feedback shines when it comes to speed, volume, objectivity, accessibility, helping students make sense of their work in real time. Teacher feedback remains the gold standard for things like trust, context, relevance, and expert judgment. Really, I guess the human things and the bits in which there's a human touch needed, of offering the kind of personal connection and challenge that pushes learning further. The authors argue that universities should help students build what's called evaluative judgment. And Nick, we've touched on this so many times. These words have come up quite a few times. The ability to weigh up different kinds of feedback, human or AI, and decide what's valuable. Because in an AI integrated world, the real skill isn't just getting feedback, but it's like, what do I actually do with it?
Yeah.
Nick, let's do a rapid news wind-up. Anthropic's privacy pivot gone wrong?
Anthropic, meant to be the good guys, just pulled a classic tech company move. Okay, so starting September 28th, your and my Claude conversations could train their models for up to 5 years, unless you spot this tiny little, accept user terms and agreement, terms and conditions of use, toggle buried below a big black accept button. Okay, when the supposed good guys start acting like everyone else, I would suggest principals become the first casualty of the AI race. Dale, what about you? Privacy settings on, off? Have you gone through all of your myriad collection of AIs that you work?
I've turned it off. You won't get me, Anthropic, in my weird conversations about gorilla simulations. They're mine.
Yeah.
But I've turned the most off.
Between me and me. Further to Anthropic, they just launched Claude for Chrome. This is an AI agent that lives in your browser and can take actions on your behalf. Latest salvo in the browser battleground with Perplexity, as discussed earlier, launching Comet, and OpenAI reportedly building its own AI browser. Chrome, Google's Chrome, they just got a bit of a legal reprieve. A federal judge in the US ruled that Google won't be forced to sell it, keeping the search giant's browser empire intact.
And on the browser wars, Atlassian, so the Australian-born company that does things like Trello and Jira for anyone who likes tickets in IT things, no one really does. They've actually just purchased the browser company. So we've covered agentic browsers like Dia a few weeks back, and it's an all-cash offering, which means that they've kind of just bought the whole thing, and the talent may leave. And the internet's a bit upset. They're worried that Atlassian will change what is a very much a cult-loved project, which is the agentic browser.
Just rounding up the news about Anthropic, they now dominate, it turns out, enterprise AI with 32% market share versus OpenAI's 25%. Now, this is a complete reversal from 2 years ago when OpenAI held 50% of the total market. Claude's coding supremacy is even starker at 42% enterprise market share, more than double that of OpenAI at 21%. Incredible stuff.
I still remember Dario Modi standing up and saying that 90% of coding will be done by AI within a year, which I think is this calendar year. I want that marketing speak. It clearly helped.
Finally, just rounding out our rapid fire round, Apple of the big tech companies has remained very quiet in the space for quite a long time, far beyond laggards, really just a non-entity. That said, they are reportedly testing Google Gemini as a foundation for a next generation Siri, joining earlier talks with OpenAI and Anthropic. So the company wants web-aware answers and is willing to pay for the privilege.
Apple may be behind in this kind of AI race. That's the speak from the punters, but they've got some really cool applications. Their foundation model is very impressive. What they're doing on device, what they're able to do on device. I think we're going to see some pretty cool applications, and I've seen some pretty awesome ones from people like Paul Hamilton, which I'll link to in the show notes. Nick, I want to say you're having an influence because I just finished watching a 1-hour presentation from Canvas, the learning management system. And from what they were saying, it doesn't look like it's going to be an AI free-for-all. Instructure just ran a session tackling what they call the AI conundrum. That mix of excitement and anxiety that we're all feeling about AI floods into education. So instead of flashy demos, what they showed was the why and the what. They were talking about things like equity, pedagogy, and how their new platform, Ignite AI, we would talk about that title, is meant to unify AI tools inside Canvas without losing trust or oversight. Now, these are all topics that you touched on in your LMS rant a few weeks back. So, Nick, you're changing the direction here. They're probably listening to you.
Doubt that very much, mate. But shout out to, I think it's Abby Nelson. Like, if we want to get someone along from Canvas, come on and have a chat. We'd love to hear from the experts themselves, then what the plans are there.
The key message from this, AI should serve learning, not the other way around. I'm keen to see where this ends up, but for now, I'm going to choose optimism. Tell us about a problem that can't be solved.
Yeah, so new research from Deakin's CRADLE, so that's the Center for Research and Assessment in Digital Learning, cuts through just this endless cycle of AI assessment, quote, solutions with a brutal reality check. there is no solution, right? So university educators aren't failing to find the right approach. They're wrestling with what corporate consultants love to call a wicked problem, right? It's rare that I find myself nodding along to management speak, but this particular bit of jargon actually captures something real. These aren't challenges with a correct answer, right? There are only trade-offs that hurt. And the study reveals that teachers are caught in impossible binds. So make assessments AI proof and kill creativity, embrace AI integration and sacrifice academic integrity. Try both and drown in an utterly unsustainable workload. And what's striking here is how educators keep saying that they're at a loss, not because they're incompetent, but because they're confronting a problem designed to resist solutions. And the Cradle team's prescription isn't another framework, but is a series three radical permissions to compromise, to diverge, and to iterate. I'd say this is a rare academic admission that sometimes the smartest response to an impossible problem is to stop pretending it's solvable.
I really did love one of the headings or titles in the piece, and it said, "There's no end to the number of solutions or approaches to a wicked problem." And I think there is no silver bullet for this. This is one that happens through ongoing conversation and understanding and working through all the different and endless permutations that we keep getting. Let's finish a bit lighter, shall we, and go back to Nano Banana because it's just so much fun. Yes, the Google Gemini image editing platform that's taken the world by storm. Even my nan is asking what a Nano Banana is. Thing one, I'm pretty sure that my petition to bring back the name Nano Banana, it worked. So way better than the boring old Flash 2.5, the meme one. So people are referring it to as Nano Banana, even in their model page. Thing two, since launch, Gemini has pulled in over 10 million new users and seen more than 200 million images edited. That's 2 weeks.
Wow.
That's where we're at with AI now. It's not about how many parameters it has or how smart it is or all the things that we see on these brochures. The real story is that everyday use cases that people actually adopt. That's what's driving this really incredible wave of people using AI tools. And there's brilliant things you can do, like turning action figures from a photo. So I've got a photo of myself from recently, and they turn me into whoever this guy is. And look how buff he is. I'm really chuffed. That's from my top half, and they've just assumed that I don't skip
True to
leg
life,
day.
mate. True to life. That's great.
Yourself, you look great. Really good. I did note this that included your I'm going to say eclectic background as little pieces on the side, which is great. Nick, you
Yeah,
and I were in
awesome.
the same postcode very recently, and we had one job was to get a photo together so we could use it for podcast materials. We forgot to do that, but it's all right. I just took some screenshots, and now we've got just two lads at the beach. I love isometric kind of 3D cozy design, so I took a photo of my desk recently. I'd love to see what that kind of looks like. It's kind of like a cozy little isometric design. Oh, that's a nice little aesthetic. But Nick, you're probably a bit homesick. So I've been building a nice little app experience recently, and so what I've have is something where you can take any building from like any photo, any like Google Street View photo or any image, and you chuck it in, and it creates a little nice little icon. And I love the beehive in Wellington, so I thought that in, but I was like, hang on, well, let's bring these together as one beautiful
Yeah,
image. So
I
just
love it.
kind of bringing everything that you are together.
I
There's just lots to
appreciate it.
see here.
I see myself in it.
There's countless little examples of these little apps, toys, experiences you can create. At this point, the limit is your imagination and about $30. Let's bust some jargon. What is a human in the loop? Human on the loop. Loop. So, there's two different phrases floating around. There's human in the loop, which means a person is directly involved in the AI's decision-making process. Think of kind of like a stop-go switch. The AI can't move forward without human approval. Case in point, so online shopping, like fraud checks, an AI might flag a credit card purchase as suspicious, but before your card is frozen and cancelled, a human fraud analyst looks at the details and decides whether to block or approve it. Human on the loop. It's a bit of a step back here. Here the AI runs mostly on its own, but a person is monitoring from above, ready to intervene if things go sideways. Example, so like lane keeping in your car, the AI kind of steers and adjusts speeds, but the driver stays alert with their hands near the wheel, ready to take control if the system misjudges. Why does it matter? Because the choice between in or on the loop kind of shapes trust in how we use these systems, accountability, and how fast it's going to be. In the loop often means slower, but a little bit safer. On the loop means faster, but probably riskier if the human isn't paying close attention. Nick, where are you? Are you in the loop, on the loop? a loop.
Loop, yeah, job dependent. Hey, like, I mean, there are times I'm right in there amongst it. I mean, in terms of I'm crafting presentation X for fancy people Y, or there are other points when I'm just dismissive, doesn't matter, go, and let me know when it breaks.
But next time you hear these terms, remember, in the loop, hands on the loop, eyes on. We're also going to be looking at the AI winter. So what happens when everything in AI just stops? And would it be that bad? Well, listeners, thank you for listening. If you have not already, please leave us a review, share around within your network, and most of all, hit subscribe on whatever platform you are at. For those watching on YouTube, we are on all your favorite podcast platforms. Those who love to see our faces, you can find us on YouTube too. We'd love to tell you what's on next week's episode, but it's a world that moves way too fast. So you'll just have to tune in. Until then, stay curious, stay intelligent, stay the human in the loop.